This is the cheapest form of granular market research data in the history of humankind. So find out. Like if you have that question, it's like, oh, I'm not sure whether women over the age of 55, that's my demographic in the state of Massachusetts, are on Facebook or not. Go find out. You don't have to buy an ad. Just go to this tool. It'll take you 10 minutes. It's not that hard, but I think you'll be surprised with the results in terms of the number of people. And the neat thing is, and Facebook ads are actually relatively cheap. If you want to experiment with them, that's fine too. But once you find these people, it's like, oh, well, I can create an ad that's targeted those 514,000 people. Exactly the people that I want to go after, essentially, whatever that demographic happens to be. So I encourage you to try that out. It's fun in terms of seeing the number of users. Twitter. When most of you came across Twitter, like my co-founder did, basically dismissed it. It's like, why would anybody want to know what I'm having for lunch? Why do I care about where someone's going, what movie someone's going to see? And you'd be right about that. It's like, why would anybody care? I'm not going to go through the history of why we are where we are, but I'm here to tell you, and we've seen the data, is that even normal people use Twitter now, including your prospects and leads and customers. And that primary reason might be the elections, but it's hit mainstream. So I defy you to watch normal TV, primetime TV, or listen to 2 hours of radio and not hear a single reference to Twitter. And your drive back, if you listen to NPR, you will hear, it's like, oh yeah, to send us feedback. If you're on CNN, oh yeah, send us whatever. Like, it's hit mainstream now. So don't ignore it. At a bare minimum, if you don't believe me, which is fine, do yourself a favor and at least reserve your Twitter name. It's free, and it takes exactly like 45 seconds. So if you have a brand, reserve your Twitter username because it's free, and trying to get it later is going to be hard. So it's kind of like domain names were back in the early 90s. So claim your username if you haven't yet. And then you can promptly dismiss me and wake up again 6 months from now, and that's okay. You might be right about that, but at least do it. What's useful about Twitter is like, people spend a lot of time there. Lots of influencers. So if you're a blogger, you're a B2B company, you've got industry folks. As it turns out, a lot of them spend time on Twitter. I'm not exactly sure why. So what you need to do is you need to find who those people are. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is, if you go to Grader.com, we have a free tool called Twitter Grader. And Twitter Grader is a tool I wrote that measures how powerful and authoritative someone is on Twitter. And it gives you a 0 to 100 score. It's graded 6 million plus people now. Hundreds of thousands of people use it every week. And you can do a search and say, oh, I'm looking for CRM. And you do a search on Twitter Grader, and it gives you the top 100 people in terms of authority, power, and reach. How many followers do they have? Do they get retweeted or not? Are people listening? On that scale, and they'll give you, it's like, oh, here's the most powerful people on Twitter that are about CRM or whatever industry happens to be. So you need to find those people, start following and start reading what they have to say. This is the way you kind of build your following. We don't have a lot of time to spend on this. We're going to spin through it. So that's Twitter Grader. Once you create your Twitter account, take the extra 5 minutes and fill your bio out. They call it a bio. It's not really a bio. If it's a business account, what does the business do? Where is it located? And a website link. And those numbers, by the way, so we've looked at 6 million accounts. 76% of them fail to provide any information in terms of what the person or the company is about. Well, if you're going to create a Twitter account, take the extra 5. It's like a one-time cost. You don't have to do it every day. It's a one-time cost. It helps. It's like, and the question you should be answering is, if somebody wound up at my Twitter profile through a search or through some other mechanism, why would they care? Why would they want to follow me? Why would they want to listen? Right? And if you project forward, what ends up happening on Twitter is that you kind of build these friends and followers. It's like getting email subscribers, like people signing up to your email newsletter. Same exact thing, right? You have an ability to kind of message these people over time, and it's a great way to push content in the future and things like that. So I would encourage you. By the way, and we're the B2B business. Obviously, we're a high-tech company, but of the 19,000 leads that we generated last month, Twitter was on the top 5 sources of those leads. We sell to mainstream businesses. We don't sell to just high-tech companies or anything. We sell to people building fences for llamas and stuff, law firms, manufacturing firms, all sorts of different companies. It works. It really does. Might not work for you, but it does work for us. All right, I'm going to wind down here. Retweeting, I'm going to give you just 10 seconds on it. So think about, so if you're on Twitter, so what Twitter is, just a half a step back, is it's known as a microblog, right? So it's like writing a blog article, but the blog article has to be no more than 140 characters, for those that have not played with it yet. That's the way to think about it. And what retweeting is like, okay, you post this thing, it's a link to a blog article or whatever, it's this tweet, and when people retweet it, essentially they're sending it to their friends and their followers, essentially. And so the name of the game in Twitter is like, okay, I'm going to say useful things, maybe only 500 people follow you, let's say, that you amassed over some period of time. Well, one of those 500 people, let's say, is me, just for discussion purposes. Well, I've got 19,000 people following me. Not all of them are reading at the exact same time. Not all of them look at every single thing I say, but some percentage of them do. So if you say something and it gets tweeted and I'm following you and I say, oh, wow, that's a great article about how the CRM industry is changing, and I retweet it. So now not only did you reach your 500 people, of which I happen to be one, that content, that link to your blog article now goes to my 19,000 people who also have followers. And it can spread from there, right? So that's why, like, one of the best ways to do traffic generation, once you've built the credibility, it's like, oh, Dharmesh says useful things on Twitter. He doesn't talk about what he had for lunch. He's out at conferences, he's tweeting live events, he's doing all these things. You build his following up or whatever, and it's a great way to kind of crack through. It's like, how do I get bigger readership? How do I get bigger reach? How do I get to the people that I want to get to? Twitter works exceptionally well for that once you build up a reach. All right. I'm going to talk about measuring success, and this will be a good segue into Mitch's talk and going on through the day. We are maniacal about measurement at HubSpot. But at a bare minimum, what you should be doing is you should be tracking the actual performance of your kind of internet or web marketing activities. And there are tools out there, both free and non-free, to do this. But at a minimum, you should know how many visitors you're getting from what channel. Like, oh, well, this is how much I'm getting from a given blog that I got an article in, or from the New York Times that was a press hit that we had, or through paid campaigns. You should know it by keyword. It says, oh, here are the 6 keywords that we kind of rank for in Google. How much traffic did it generate? How much of that came into qualified leads, and how many of those leads converted to customers? The last part can get hard, but it's worth it. You need to know all the way through the sales funnel how much return you're getting across the various channels, across the various marketing activities that you're doing. So measurement is immensely important, and it wasn't possible 10 years ago, so it was okay to kind of arm wave it. It's like, oh yeah, we've got a $200,000 PR budget, and we've got a $50,000 advertising budget, and we kind of spread it along this way, and we advertise in these little trade journals and this over here. And it was really hard to measure in terms of, like, cold hard, did we get customers or not? Now, there's no excuse. You should know what kind of performance you're getting out of your various marketing activities. And that's a great way to rationalize future spend as well. All right, I'm going to close. This is my last slide. I'm going to close with this notion of how marketing has changed, because one of the things that's interesting, so HubSpot has 45 people on the inside sales team right now. And we see this kind of development happening now, is that marketing and sales is starting to merge and become much, much closer than they've ever been before. Not that they're like, sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya yet in terms of VP of Marketing and the VP of Sales, but they're working much more closely now. And the reason they're working much more closely is because so much of this data is available now. So many of the tools now kind of work together to say, okay, what can we do? So marketing has all this information about people coming to the website and what they're doing and whether they download a white paper and all these things or whatever. Well, as it turns out, salespeople care about some of that stuff, right? It's like lead intelligence. Like, tell me what this person, like, when do they first find us? How do they find us? Do they read the pricing page or not? Those kinds of things are immensely interesting. So I think the successful sales and marketing organizations, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, are the ones where you kind of start to blend that, where the salespeople know what it costs to produce a lead of a certain quality. And the salespeople will communicate. It's like, you know what? People that were searching on the hydraulics industry convert to customers that pay us much more money than people that were searching on financial services, let's say in both channels. Is to be able to get all that raw data from the web, from all these marketing activities, and use it to either close sales, which is great, hire salespeople, even better, commission salespeople, all the way through. You should be able to blend those two groups together and look at the data kind of in a holistic way. And I'll be asking really hard questions to the panelists because I'm not smart enough to know the answers as we go further throughout the day.